Hey everyone, welcome back to another Trekyards mission briefing, your weekly dose of the Star Trek ship discussion, review, theorization, first look, first look, show, Trekyards, your opinions, your thoughts, our opinions, our thoughts. You know the drill, it's been like a year. Hi Stuart.
How you doing?
Pretty good. So what are we doing today? What ship?
Today we're looking at a cool little ship, actually. I really like it. It's called the Conestoga Class, and it is from Enterprise.
Yes, this is a weird one because it never really appeared.
Yes.
But it did. It was a ship that was appeared as part of like a data pad telling the crew about a ship that existed in the past. But designed by John Eaves, and then this model was made, and God, it was a highly detailed model for that amount of work. Seriously. And I don't think anyone's really seen it in this detail, so I'm looking forward to seeing what people think. But I want to actually read something out briefly on the memory alpha page about the ship. It's actually a Warp 1 vessel. The Phoenix, just to give some context, the Phoenix was launched in 2063, so Warp 1. This was launched in 2078. So it was, 15 years later. So it's like the very first sort of generation of Warp vessels, and it was a colony ship. So think of it in that context. Like this is the first, full, or not first, but it's a real, this is the state-of-the-art Warp 1 engine, Warp 1 nacelles, very, very, very start, well before NX-01, let's go colonize. It's a very unique ship in the Star Trek canon and history, and you can tell, I think, that by the design. But so Stuart, tell us about the first time you remember seeing this ship, your very first impressions on seeing its design in Enterprise.
Don't really recall.
I don't recall.
I remember seeing it not that... Yeah, exactly. I'm on the record, so...
Yes.
I remember seeing that long ago again, and I really dig it. I think it's cool. It's very reminiscent of some Starfleet battleships, actually. Smaller light cruisers and things, police frigates and corvettes. So I think it's a neat addition to the fleet.
I just realised it's kind of a Botany Bay.
Yeah, I was gonna compare the front end to more like a Starship Troopers ship. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I love how detailed.
It's a colony ship, is it not?
Yes, colony.
Yeah, cool.
I mean, do you think it works as a colony ship? I think it does.
Yeah, it would work for like a destroyer, in my opinion. It's just a cool design. I think it looks neat.
Yeah, first time I saw it. I mean, I remember I registered it, and that was it. I remember seeing Doug Drexler's Drex Files. That he did a render of it, which was great. But now to see it in full 3D, I really appreciate it, and it's interesting because there's so little Star Trek in it, really, except what's in the cells. But that's the nature of having a Warp 1 second gen from a missile. Like this is them. Just let's build a hull, a bridge module, or at least not a bridge, it's a control module, and then thrusters and warp nacelles. Like I love it's such a different part of the Trek world, and some of the details are really excellent, are really, really cool. Now obviously the Phoenix is canon, all that jazz, but what do you think about these being, Warp 1, glowing blue, glowing red nacelles, despite the Connie not per se having that, that link? We'll go into nacelles a bit later, but first impression, are you even a little bit annoyed about how that's so early on, the red and blue?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. We've discussed that many times, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, probably in this episode. Okay. I really don't have an issue with that at all. I think it's cool.
Okay, cool.
Next picture is a shot from the back, and of course this is very reminiscent of NASA designs today. You've got those 4 big thrusters. The shuttle has 3, or had 3. So that probably solid fuel boosters there, which I have no problem with. I mean, they probably recycle their trash or whatever into solid fuel for the boosters, would be a safe bet.
Well, this is a pre-impulse ship.
Yeah, exactly.
How crazy is that to think of? Seriously though.
Chemically propelled engine, yeah.
And yet still warp capable. It's like someone today said, here's warp engines. Oh, okay, it's scrambled to build a ship, Yeah, I really
we can't use the warp engines all the time. We need something else. Damn. All right. Well, we got this stuff.
Yes.
It works.
But I kind of dig this. And one thing you'll notice about this ship is that it at the back, the aft, there's a deflector dish. There's actually a lot of deflector dishes or sensor dishes on this. I'm sure to
Probably
help.
sensor communications array. I wouldn't call it a deflector dish.
Okay, sure. But it's a lot of dishes, like very rustic, very basic technology. And just to give it that basic functionality, it's like they even... I mean, again, you don't see much of the ship, but the detail I absolutely love. But they're very, very sort of TOS engines. And again, we'll talk about it a little later, but I really liked it from the back. It's cool.
Yeah, those sensor dishes and things really work for me. They make it look real, and they're not eyesores. They're not too big. They're perfect. They suit this design amazingly, I think. Yeah. So...
but the next picture is a great sort of front view, and there's so much detail, and so much to take.
Awesome.
Yeah, so much to take in. Seriously, Stuart, throw information at me. What do you think? I mean, there's so much going on here.
That's a lot of little dishes at the front there.
Yes.
I'm assuming those are all like sensor suites and things like that for detecting habitable planets and stuff, because it is a colony ship after all.
Well, it could be one per. It could be dedicated sensors. Like one is for this particle, one's for this, just to like redundancy, you know.
Yeah, and I'm sure that bigger one on the right of the command module that you can't really see there is very. It looks very similar to the TOS Connie, so I assume that's the deflector dish for when they're at warp.
Oh, well, there's another one, but it's hidden away. You can't see it yet.
Yeah.
I like that it's kind of got a building vibe in a small sense. In the front of the ship, the command module, it's just 2 floors of just like windows. It's just rooms. It's very, very simple. And I kind of dig that. There's not windows throughout the ship in the same way as all the other ships. It's just like this is the command zone. And then you've got other bits that are the food store, the people. It's very, very functional. What do you think of the 2 levels of? I'm gonna say intake, but I don't know. What do you think? Sort of grilling and.
Yeah, I don't know, because I wouldn't assume that those would necessarily be intakes for the. You don't need an intake for that kind of thruster at the back. Plus, there's a lot of ship between those and that. So what is that? I don't know. It kind of doesn't need to be there, but I'm sure it's got a purpose, because Johnny's really doesn't do much without having a purpose, right? So it's worth asking him, I think, but I don't know what those would be for. One thing I do notice, though, that ties us in with TOS, and I really like it, is the 3 little things on the front.
Oh, yeah.
Very reminiscent of the 3 on the TOS Connie saucer. So
I hadn't put that together, but that's really, that's great. But I was about to say the 3 underneath it, very much like bicycle pumps. There's little nozzles. My guess is that's where they attach the, it's gonna be like docked / on the ground. They just put in those hoses where the oxygen goes in, and, it's just literal plug and play supplies. Because they look like valves.
Now, what do you think of the big guns or whatever they are on the bottom?
There's a picture.
One looks like
the dedicated picture in a minute.
Okay.
So I'll talk about it in detail. But I don't know. But they're so cool. I don't know though.
Well, one just looks like a phaser rifle slapped on, but I'm sure we'll talk about that in a minute.
Oh, it's just really interesting and so much thought.
There's a lot of visual elements to this that make it very fun to look at. And especially in this detail, like, this is amazing. I'm really enjoying this ship.
And it's one of those things that this would be like the perfect, and again, why I think Botany Bay is like the perfect workhorse. Put grain in it, give it a warp 3 engine. It's just a big cargo. Like I dig the later one we see, the J class. It's a very small ship, huge sort of tanker. But this is more of the self-sustainable internal space, living area. This will carry the crew to other pits. I would love to have seen this flying in the background, in some shots, like to give us a sense of fleet for Enterprise. We didn't get that really as well. We got sometimes the ships came to the rescue of Enterprise, which was great, but they're obviously ones with weapons designed to be able to fight as well. I would love to have seen, them come into the Tridock and all these ships flying by. Yeah, this is just the ships that are there to go to the moon, deliver some supplies. Why not?
Yeah.
The taxi of the I don't know. All
right, so let's go into the next picture. Oh, there, I see what you're saying. There's the big main deflector dish right there.
I love even at the back. There's those concentric rings behind the TOS deflector.
Yeah.
Like, such a nice attention to detail there. My guess is that's the main deflector, and the one on top is the main sensor slash communication slash warp field bubble like they can't make anything big enough to be singular, so they have to have multiple dishes around the hull to help sustain the field. That's my guess. But that, I guess, will also be the primary deflector.
Yeah, very cool. Plus, you got a little docking port there.
They got multiple. I love that. And it
Yeah.
gives you a good sense of how small it is, you know.
Wow.
But
Makes me wonder if those things on the front are actually like sensors or antennas of some kind.
my
But
guess
what
the big
purpose?
prong one would be, but I would assume the other two might be cannons. Because you want something, wouldn't you? You need something, especially since, you know, well, I don't know, what else could they be? Maybe collectors of a different sort, maybe probe launchers would make sense.
Yeah, maybe. Very aggressive looking for a probe launcher, though.
Or just very rustic, you know, what can we build? Well, we need something to hold the gas to launch it. We need one to, you know, hold, I don't know, think big and bulky. But really cool detailing. We need to get John on for this and just say, John, you put you input thought into this for 10 years. It was in for 1 second. Tell us all about the ship. Oh, I just get him to talk about it because it's just such a cool.
I'm sure he could, too.
I'm sure he could as well, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they planned on using this more. That's why it was so detailed. I don't know.
It's crazy how good this is. I mean, it's not like a mega complicated ship, and the shapes aren't even that. And I've lit it well. That's why it looks, so good. But yeah, one thing I want to.
Yeah, it looks good because of you. I get it. That's how it is.
Hey, it's teamwork between the modeler and the animator. One thing I want to point out now. I don't think this is right, but tell me your thoughts. So where I said there was grilling above that, especially in this shot, you can see there are those slits. What do you think about that being a now? I'm not going to shuttle bay, but maybe a pod bay, where shuttle pods can launch from.
Doesn't work for me.
No, me either.
It's interesting. Like it does look like they open kind of like a car vent. What purpose that would serve, I don't know. Cool off the ship when it overheats. I don't know.
Yes. No.
Next picture. We
yes.
got the SS Conestoga Terra Nova Expedition.
And again,
Yes.
these are details that you would never see without Trekyards, and I'm so proud to be able to bring you the Canon model, the Canon details. You know, this is something you would never see, and I think it's just amazing that they put this effort in. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool because when you come visit me, Samuel, there's a place near here called Conestoga.
Oh. That's how you know.
Conestoga is actually an English word for Indians that were discovered in Pennsylvania. So there's a Conestoga Lake. I know, but in our area too, in Ontario, there's a Conestoga Lake. There's a lot of Conestoga references.
See, I don't know how to.
Conestoga College.
I've never known how to pronounce it, but obviously it's a word you know. So, and it's worth pointing out that in the actual files of the ship from the show, it's Conestoga 5, even though it's just called the SS Conestoga sort of online. So take that as you will, but that's how they say it. It's Conestoga-V5. So take that as you will, but that's an interesting little side note. But the next picture is a close-up of the external part of the warp nacelle. There will be another part of the internal space for detail. I kind of dig it. It feels, well, it feels in between. The fact that it's got the glowing red makes it feel more advanced, but we know the Phoenix has that. The fact that it's got the pike spike at the front is a great touch to Cage, obviously. But look how many different parts to this nacelle there are.
Sections.
It's not a smooth thing. It's like bit. It even has to have a girder on any of the sides to keep it together. I mean, it's such a rudimentary warp nacelle, you know.
This seems very much almost post NX01 for me.
Oh, really?
It's almost a step towards the TOS aesthetic,
Oh,
where
okay.
the outer side is not lit at all. The NX does have the outer side being lit too. And the inner grilling there that we see on the other side. I know you've got a better picture of that later, I think,
Yeah.
right? We'll talk about it a bit later, but I have a few things to say about that as well. But I think this looks more advanced than the NX01 engine.
Really, that's fascinating, which is great. I mean, I take it as big and bulky, and you take it as refining the shapes, I guess.
I think it's more of a step towards TOS, because look at that back end cap. Look at, I don't know, just the fact that it's shielded on this side. I don't know. I
It,
see it as...
it even has a grill on the internal side which pops out. The Connie has one on either side. So again, I do like though the fact that it's got that extra girder sort of thing holding it all together. Like it needs extra structural it's a nice touch.
Yeah.
And it is a different
Very cool look too.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
All right, so the next picture is the inner grilling. First of all, this back end cap is very reminiscent of the cage style.
Yep.
It's instead of all just little circles, it's got a strip of them,
Yep.
but it's the same shape. I mean, that's what ties it into the TOS look for me, and I think it's a progression. Also, that inner grill is very reminiscent of the refit design, or a Corvette, an old 50s Corvette side paneling.
Maybe that's the designer where you got it from. You know, maybe.
And honestly, this feels more advanced to me than the NX-01 engines.
I like that inner grilling. I think it's a cool. I mean, it's strange. It's more like a petal of a flower. Like it's that organic shape. And also, if you look at it, there's panel lines that go through it, as if you can pull that away, and the full grill is exposed, which is really interesting. That could be a functional part. I mean, there's so obvious like lines there. Maybe if it overheats, like you said, they have to pull that part away and give the grills a full thing. It could be either way. I mean, we know it's pre, but I do see where you're coming from. I think though, I don't know.
The only thing that negates my feeling more advanced is that bump on the top, which speaks to like older, bulkier technology. But overall, the look wise, I think it's a nice progression from NX-01 to TOS, in my opinion. So I think it was kind of misplaced on this ship.
Or just great design by John, who knew, hey, let's make something fun that no one's really ever going to see. Hey, you know.
Hey, I know when I designed this ship that years later these guys are going to look at it, so I'm going to throw this in and see what they say. Ha!
Well, John, we knew what you were thinking. Here we are, as promised, 10 years later.
Reading your mind, man.
John, we did it, John. Hope you're proud of us. The next picture is a shot of the booster rockets. Just a nice close up there. Just great looking rockets. I mean, there's not much to say, but it's cool, and I like it a lot. And the dish, and
yeah, not much to say. Very cool. Next is a comparison shot with the NX-01 size comparison. There, I see how the engines can be older tech because they're smaller. I was assuming they were about the same size, but if they were a little bit bigger, there would definitely be progression to TOS. Just saying.
How cool is it with the NX-01 though? Like stylistically,
very cool. Very cool.
We needed to see these ships, guys. We need to see this fleet because that whole silver paneling thing actually kind of works. You know, it looks rustic, it looks older, it looks more basic. You know, bare bones, and this is a colony ship, and I think it really fits it well. You know.
Totally agree.
Although, do you think it was bigger than this? I know when I think of the ship, you think colony ship, big ship, and the NX-01 only has 85 people. You know, I believe around that. Also, you've got bigger engine room. You need a weapons array, weapons, an armory. These things don't need on a colony ship, so it's just raw space. But what do you think?
I'd have to see it from the front because I know the saucer's not very big. I mean, I'm sure that there's more bulk to the Conestoga and more decks. So I think the internal volume's probably a lot. Well, not a lot more than the NX-01, but I don't know. That's a good question. It wasn't a very big colony, though, the Terra Nova colony. I forget. I think they say the number of people. You know, before all the humans' lives became shale and all that jazz. You know.
He's rewatching it. He knows his stuff. I like how though you know exactly how big the bridge is on the NX-01, and that does give you a sense of how big it's roughly the same size as the Conestoga's control and command section. So we know roughly the scaling. It's very functional. Like it's a neat ship.
It does seem very small for a colony ship though for a long trip, but then again there wasn't very many people. So
and to be fair, like you're not really going to bring cows, are you? You know, it's not. It would make sense, but it's warp 1. If it took years to get there, you're not going to be, having cows in a small space. You're going to be having, protein packs of this small, seeds. When you get to the planet, then you'll start regrowing. You'll see the new world. Like, it's people, it's technology, it's seeds and things. So, yeah. And the last picture is another scale to give you some perspective, cool. Because scale is not just in the era it's meant to be. It's in the whole wide world. And again, when using canonical sources and the real models, you can have these interesting views. What do you think about that, Stuart?
Throws off the scale for me, like, hugely. Just look at the Delta Flyer and the Runabout.
Yeah.
Their nose sections, which we know the size of internally, is the same size as that front section on the Conestoga, which I thought was at least 2 decks, judging by the windows, and was quite roomy and comfortable by the looks of it. But it seems so small now.
Well, remember, if you look at the front part of the Delta Flyer, the window is where we know the hull is. That's several people wide. It's quite deep. It's designed for 4 people in the cockpit with ample room. It's just because it's sloped up, and that's just equating the first initial window section. So I mean, it's more of a runabout size. Like the bridge is and a runabout's a pretty big ship. Runabout and then 2 to 3 decks. So I'm totally fine with that. What I love is that it's like all these years later, the Nova class is about the same size. I just think that's so fascinating. Technology booms, and then you build a ship as small as a colony ship, but it has, I think, over 100 people. It's not a big ship, and it can go, warp 7 or whatever. It's all these advancements, but at the end of the day, Starfleet builds small. They build compact, advanced little ships. They don't need these mile-long behemoths.
At least in the prime timeline.
I just thought it was really interesting. It gives you a real sense of scale. That's and cool. It's a small ship, but not too small. Or is the Nova really small?
I love seeing your size comparisons. They really bring things into focus for me a lot of times, because I never really considered it.
This is why having the real assets makes this show so amazing, because we can give this perspective that no one else can give. In the olden days, I had to just guess, and it's like, this is roughly the size. This is the sizes, though. This is what it is, and it doesn't take much time to make.
But now I want to see a shuttle pod from NX-01 beside the Delta Flyer. I want to see comparisons here.
Well, for the Delta Flyer, for the shuttle pod episode, I'm sure I'll put a multiple fleet sizing for that. So look forward to that, guys. But back to the first picture, which is again the last picture. There's the Conestoga SS. Really interesting ship. Really different. Really cool, actually. So, any last thoughts on the Conestoga Class, Stuart?
Something just popped into my head, actually. I realized...
Closing thoughts.
Yes, it happens sometimes. I'm sorry. I realized this is a colony ship, and it was designed to be deconstructed upon arrival to form the colony, the buildings, initially. So those forward sections that we thought were vents that kind of had the black pieces, what if those were specifically designed that way for deconstruction later to construct a building? Could be that this is very modular and that's their purpose. I don't know, because I know that they did disassemble the craft for that purpose of building the colonies. So thoughts?
So I kind of thought, earlier episode I thought it could be like sheet metal, a very simple container to stop the air coming in, but then you're right, you could take it off and then use that, and if they're building the ship for that, I'm not sure how you would do it, but hey, maybe you could completely unhinge part of it and then sort of redo it as a building, and then you suddenly got the floors and
well, those panels that we said look like car vents are black. What if there's solar collectors of some kind that they would put on the roof of a building, and while it's in flight they can even use them pointed towards the sun, because they're going to be heading towards a system which has a sun in it, which they can collect solar energy while they're heading towards it. There's another thought.
That's a lot of thought being put in. Yeah, that's interesting. It's like how far did John go into this?
I think we're very much overlooking it, or over analyzing it as per our job. But
that's interesting, because this ship, if you were to deconstruct it, all you're going to get, even if you de-weld it, you can just get sheet metal, really, and some bulkheads. But it's interesting, there must be dedicated things. Like, you can't suddenly build solar panels. You can't. So everything like that must be included, generators and all that stuff. So that makes a lot of sense. That's really interesting.
If you need solar panels for your colony, why not use them while you're going there too? Make them multi-purpose instead of having them stored in a cargo bay somewhere not being used.
Yeah.
That's energy. Energy, any little bit of energy you can get in space is, why not, right?
Especially since it's going to be at warp for a long time because it's a warp 1. It's a very slow process. You come out of warp, you recharge the batteries to maybe,
And I know that, in deep space, solar panels will be completely useless, but as we said, it is going towards a planet which is in a system which towards a sun. So they're going to be facing that sun on arrival for quite a long time. And I'm sure the solar technology of the future is way more advanced than it is now. So even a minuscule amount of light would be...
And even
absorbed.
leaving our solar system, you do it at sublight. The closer and closer you get, or even you warp slightly into, when we know the NX-1 warped straight out of system, so we know they can do that. It's their version. So you do a quick warp close to the sun, boom, 10,000 miles closer, that solar panels are really charging up. You start warping, maybe then do a side course to another star system, you just charge up. Because, this we talked about vaguely, but you're right, if those are detachable things, they're not going to have shuttles, are they? So how do they get more dilithium? They don't. They're probably spacesuits, but that's it. So, it makes sense. Leave all the dilithium generation for the engine, the warp engine, and the solar panels to generate for everything else. Because if you burn through all your supplies in just the functional elements of the ship, you might not even get to the star system. So it really is interesting.
You actually had a good point there, though, because what do we know about? Like you said, it's warp 1.
Yes.
So to create additional speed, why not do a slingshot effect around our own sun on the way out of our solar system? So you're actually heading towards the sun, collecting solar energy while you're going. Slingshot around, get some additional
and go back in time.
Speed.
Oh, okay.
No, not that much speed. Get some additional speed, so you're going a little bit faster than warp 1, and you can sustain that a little bit longer, maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying, and then hit another system and do the same thing, going towards the system you're heading for. Why not? Saves energy costs.
It's basically a lot to talk about for the ship, and can't wait for the full episode. Closing thoughts, Stuart?
I love it. I think it's fantastic. John Eaves, again, has outdone himself. I think you could scale this thing up to a bigger cruiser size, like the size of the Constitution class, and I think it would still work equally as well with this kind of look. Because, like I said, that front section looks a lot bigger. I see the same shapes as the Starship Trooper ship there, so I assume basically the same size, which is pretty huge. I think it would work. I think it would work for me, this size, like a big size. But yeah, very cool ship. John Eaves did a great job. I don't know why he put so much detail into this model when we weren't.
Well, remember, John designed the sketches, and then one of the modelers built it. So it's the modeler that we got to thank for whoever built the physical model, because it's so much work was put into this. There's a lot. It's not complicated shapes, but a lot of subtlety. And again, I would have liked to see more of it on screen. I'd like to see it flying. I want to see it in warp, Samuel. Just saying. And I love the engines. I'm just giving my final thoughts here. And I love the engines. But like I said, I think if they're a little bit bigger than the NX-01s, they're a nice progression towards the TOS style. Yeah. So you want to see the NX refit with those nacelles, do you?
Yes, sure.
Or a caged Connie with those, and this is then they refit to the normal. Yeah, I when you see the ship and appreciate the design, because all this takes thought and design, guys. This was on for literally 5 seconds in such a small resolution, such a small whatever, and to bring it this life and just dissect it and look at the attention. This is why we're here, and I appreciate being given the chance to have these models to be able to show them off and to give you. This was Indiegogo request. You guys requested this. One of you did, and I hope you've loved seeing it. No one's ever seen it before, and like I say, as Stuart said, we'll see it at Warp, we'll see it in the full episode once we get around to the full episode. We'll talk to John, we'll talk to maybe the model if we can get him or her, and see it do all the things. Maybe I can do the part, the physical engines, but we'll see. Be fun.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
So until next time, guys, if you want to support us, please do over at Patreon. That's our monthly donation service to keep the show coming to you every single week, day, month, maybe even year. If you help, we will. Or give a one-time donation over our website at trekyards.com. Click that donate button and put in 1 and as many zeros as you want to give. Maybe 5, maybe 7. If you can do 7 zeros, we'd love you forever. Unless they're 0.00, then, that's pretty pointless.
If you put in 7 zeros, we'll start building these ships. We'll build the Conestoga first for that price, I think.
Disclaimer, he does not speak for the entire Trekyards brand. We might not do that, we might do something else instead. So until next time, guys, I am Commander Cockings.
And I'm Captain Foley, hearing legal jargon.
I will see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody. The views expressed by Captain Foley do not necessarily reflect the views of Trekyards.